is. Every single person who has ever achieved something extraordinary has walked through the valley of setbacks. We look at success stories from the outside and imagine that they are built on straight upward paths. But the truth is behind every breakthrough lies a trail of disappointments, mistakes, and obstacles. The difference between those who stay down and those who rise lies in perception. How you interpret failure determines whether it breaks you or builds you. If you see failure as final, then your mind will lock the door and refuse to let you move forward. But if you see it as feedback, a clue pointing you to what must be refined, then setbacks transform into stepping stones. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of the formula for success itself. When you shift your perception of failure, everything changes. A rejection becomes redirection. A closed door becomes an opportunity to explore another path you would never have noticed otherwise. Think about the moments in your life when you felt defeated. At the time, you may have believed it was the end of the road, but looking back, haven't you noticed how those same moments contained lessons that reshaped your journey? That's the hidden beauty of setbacks. They carry the seeds of growth if you are willing to look deeper. The mind has the extraordinary ability to assign meaning to every experience, and the meaning you assign determines whether you rise or remain stuck. What most people do when they face failure is attach it to their identity. They begin to believe, I am a failure, instead of, I experienced a failure. That one shift in language, in perception, creates the gap between destruction and resilience. Failure is never personal. It is a momentary result. The comeback begins when you understand that your worth, your capacity, and your potential are not defined by a temporary setback. They remain intact, waiting for you to recognize them and act from that awareness. The human brain thrives on adaptation. Neuroplasticity means that every experience you go through reshapes your mind. Setbacks literally carve new pathways in your brain. Teaching you how to think differently, respond differently, and prepare differently. If you approach them with curiosity rather than frustration, you'll discover insights that no book, no lecture, no success could ever teach. Failure teaches through experience. And once you embrace it as your teacher, you stop resisting it and start using it. That is where resilience is born. The greatest inventors, entrepreneurs, and leaders in history didn't achieve their positions because they avoided failure. They achieved them because they redefined failure. They used it as a mirror to reflect what wasn't working and as a compass pointing toward what would. The formula is simple: try, fail, learn, adjust, and try again. That cycle repeated enough times creates mastery. And the people who win in life are simply those who kept going long enough to let failure refine them into winners. So the first step in turning setbacks into comebacks is to embrace failure not as an enemy, but as an ally. Look at every mistake as a messenger. Ask yourself, what is this teaching me? What can I extract from this? How can this redirect me closer to my vision? The moment you shift your perception of failure, you gain access to an inner strength that transforms defeat into fuel. You realize that success was never about avoiding setbacks. It was always about leveraging them. That is how champions are built, and that is where your comeback begins. Before anything changes in your external world, it must first change in the internal world of your imagination. Every comeback, every victory, every achievement begins in the mind as an image long before it ever becomes reality. The truth is, you can't outperform the pictures you hold in your head. If the only image you carry is the memory of your setbacks, your brain will keep replaying that movie and directing your actions to match it. But if you begin to build a new picture of your desired comeback, a clear mental blueprint of the life you want to live, then your actions will naturally align to bring it into being. The imagination is not child's play. It is creation at its highest level. Think about this. Everything around you that is man-made began as an image in someone's mind. The chair you're sitting on, the phone in your hand, the building you live in, they all existed in thought before they existed in form. That same principle applies to your life. If you can see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand. Imagination is the bridge between setbacks and comebacks. When life knocks you down, you must decide what you will picture in your mind, defeat or possibility. And whichever picture dominates will eventually dominate your actions and your results. The brain doesn't distinguish much between vividly imagined experiences and real ones. Neuroscience shows us that when you imagine yourself performing an action, the same neural pathways are activated as if you were physically doing it. That means imagination is not fantasy, it's rehearsal. It's practice for the future you're building. When you repeatedly picture yourself rising after a fall, succeeding after failure, speaking with confidence, closing the deal, achieving the goal, your brain wires those images as patterns. And when opportunities arise in the real world, your actions flow with ease because your mind has already rehearsed it 1,000 times. Most people misuse imagination. Instead of visualizing success, they play worst-case scenarios over and over again in their heads. They imagine rejection, embarrassment, and loss. And the brain faithful to the images it receives, prepares the body and mind for those outcomes. This is why so many stay stuck in their setbacks. They are trapped in mental movies of failure. But you have the power to change the real. You can project a different film in the theater of your mind. One filled with courage, strength, resilience, and victory. When you do that consistently, you begin to embody the energy of a comeback long before it arrives. Your imagination must be precise. Don't just see a vague image of success, make it vivid. If you want to rebuild after a setback, picture it clearly where you are, who you are with, what you are wearing, how you feel, the details of the environment. Engage all your senses. The more real it feels in your imagination, the faster your mind will accept it as possible. And once your mind accepts it, your actions will bend to match that inner vision. Setbacks can cloud your vision if you let them. But imagination has the power to pierce through the fog and show you the path ahead. The people who rise after failure are the ones who dare to keep seeing beyond what is to what can be. They hold an image of victory so strongly that no disappointment can erase it. That is the secret of transformation. The comeback doesn't begin when circumstances change. It begins the moment you see yourself differently in your mind. Build the image of your comeback and hold it with unwavering faith. And soon enough, your reality will bend to match the picture you have created. Resilience is not a gift handed to a chosen few. It is a skill built through repetition. Setbacks are often so overwhelming because people expect resilience to appear instantly in the moment of crisis. But resilience doesn't show up by chance. It is constructed through daily habits, consistent actions, and repeated choices. Just as a muscle grows stronger the more you use it, your ability to bounce back from adversity strengthens with every intentional repetition. The comeback belongs to those who refuse to stop practicing the fundamentals of growth, even when it feels like nothing is changing. Think about a child learning to walk. They fall hundreds of times before they take those first confident steps. But in their mind, there is no failure, only repetition. Every attempt strengthens their balance, improves their coordination, and brings them closer to mastery. That's exactly how resilience is developed. Every time you get back up after a setback, even if progress feels small, you are rewiring your brain to associate challenges with growth instead of defeat. Neuroplasticity ensures that with every repeated effort, your mental circuits for persistence become stronger and more automatic. Most people quit too soon. They mistake slow progress for no progress. They fail a few times, feel the sting of disappointment, and conclude that resilience is not within them. But the truth is, resilience only emerges after repeated exposure to difficulty. You cannot build the ability to bounce back without practicing it. Just like going to the gym, one workout doesn't transform your body, but consistent training does. The same principle applies to your mind. Each time you face discomfort, push forward despite resistance, and repeat the process, you grow more resilient than you were before. The secret to activating resilience lies in small, consistent repetitions rather than grand, occasional efforts. You don't have to rebuild your entire life in one day. You just need to take one step, then repeat it. One phone call, one new attempt, one courageous conversation. Repetition compounds. Over time, those seemingly small actions build momentum, and momentum creates confidence. Confidence then fuels even greater action, and the cycle continues until your setback has completely transformed into a comeback. is your brain is designed to automate whatever you repeat most often. If you repeat fear, hesitation, and self-doubt, those patterns become your default response. But if you repeat courage, persistence, and forward motion, those patterns become your instinct. The power lies in what you choose to rehearse daily. Even in the face of repeated failure, your repetitions are shaping your resilience. With each attempt, you are conditioning your mind to say, "I can get up again." And that identity becomes unshakable. Setbacks often tempt us to take shortcuts or look for instant results. But resilience doesn't grow in the easy moments. It grows in the grind, in the repetitions that feel mundane in the efforts no one else sees. The most successful people aren't necessarily the most talented, they are simply the most consistent. They understand that repetition, not perfection, is what creates strength. So when life knocks you down, don't focus on the size of the mountain. Focus on the next step. Take it and then repeat it. Do it again tomorrow. Do it again the day after. With every repetition, you're teaching yourself that no setback has the power to keep you down permanently. You are building resilience into the very structure of your brain. And one day, when you look back, you'll realize that your comeback wasn't the result of one dramatic moment of change. It was the accumulation of small, repeated acts of persistence that built an unshakable foundation of resilience. Every setback carries with it an emotional storm. Disappointment, anger, frustration, sadness. These feelings can be so heavy that they make people believe they are stuck. But emotion in itself is not the problem. Emotion is energy, and energy is neutral until you direct it. That means the very feelings that seem to weigh you down can also become the fuel that propels you forward, if you learn how to channel them. You cannot suppress emotion and expect to rise. You must transform it. When you take frustration and redirect it into determination, when you take anger and turn it into focused drive, when you take disappointment and turn it into hunger for growth, you are no longer a prisoner of emotion. You are the master of it. Think about the most pivotal moments in your life. Chances are they weren't born out of comfort, but out of emotional intensity. Maybe it was the pain of rejection that pushed you to grow stronger. Maybe it was the frustration of being overlooked that ignited your determination to prove yourself. Maybe it was the sadness of failure that drove you to discover a better version of you. In each case, the emotion was the catalyst. What matters is not whether you feel these emotions, but what you do with them. The brain is designed to respond to emotional energy. When you feel deeply, your nervous system activates, your heart rate increases, your attention sharpens. This heightened state is a powerful opportunity if you harness it. Instead of letting it spiral into self-pity or destructive behavior, you can capture that surge of energy and channel it into productive action. Athletes do this all the time, using the sting of a loss to fuel harder training, sharper focus, and greater performance. Entrepreneurs do it when they take the frustration of a failed idea and use it to create something revolutionary. You have that same power within you. What keeps most people stuck is not the emotion itself, but their interpretation of it. They believe that feeling angry or sad means they are failing. But emotion is not failure, it is feedback. It's your inner system signaling that something must change. Instead of labeling emotions as good or bad, start seeing them as energy sources. Ask yourself, how can I use this? How can I turn this intensity into momentum? That simple reframe can transform what feels like a burden into the very thing that drives your comeback. Of course, this doesn't mean ignoring emotions or pretending they don't exist. It means embracing them fully, then deciding to direct them consciously. If you suppress them, they fester. If you indulge them, they consume you. But if you channel them, they elevate you. The anger that once weighed you down can become passion. The disappointment that once made you quit can become discipline. The sadness that once left you stuck can become empathy, which strengthens your relationships and leadership. Energy cannot be destroyed, it can only be transformed. The same is true with emotion. Every setback generates an emotional charge. You can either waste it by drowning in self-pity, or you can convert it into fuel for your next move. Imagine the comeback you could create if every ounce of your frustration, every spark of your anger, every tear of your sadness was redirected into purposeful action. you would become unstoppable, is because nothing could rob you of energy. It would all work in your favor. Your comeback will not be born from comfort or neutrality, it will be born from the fire of emotion that you choose to channel into action. Learn to see every strong feeling not as a curse, but as a catalyst, not as a chain, but as a source of fuel. When you transform emotion into energy, every setback becomes the ignition for your most powerful comeback. The greatest limitation most people face after a setback is not the setback itself. It is the identity they adopt because of it. When failure happens, people don't just say, "I failed." They say, "I am a failure." That small but powerful shift in language becomes a prison. You begin to identify with the setback instead of seeing it as a temporary result. But here's the truth. You will never outperform the way you see yourself. If your identity is tied to failure, you will unconsciously create more of it. If your identity is tied to resilience and victory, you will naturally attract opportunities to rise. The comeback begins the moment you rewrite your self-identity. Identity is the strongest force in human behavior. People will do anything to remain consistent with the way they see themselves. If you believe you're broken, you'll keep finding evidence of brokenness. If you believe you're capable, you'll keep finding evidence of possibility. This is why two people can face the same setback. One remains stuck while the other rises. It's not the event that determines the outcome, but the identity each person carries. You must ask yourself, who am I after the fall? Am I someone defined by defeat or someone defined by resilience? Neuroscience shows us that the brain is always reshaping itself. That means your identity is not fixed. It is fluid. You have the power to choose who you become, regardless of what happened in the past. Every thought you repeat, every belief you reinforce, every story you tell yourself is carving your self-identity, and that identity dictates your actions. If you want to turn a setback into a comeback, stop replaying the story of defeat in your mind. Start telling a new story, one where you are the person who overcame, the one who rose, the one who used difficulty as fuel. Speak it, write it, affirm it until it feels natural. When you declare, "I am strong, I am resilient, I am capable," you're not lying to yourself. You're programming your mind to align with the truth of your potential. The brain accepts repetition as reality. The more you affirm your comeback identity, the more your subconscious begins to filter your thoughts, emotions, and actions to match it. This isn't about pretending setbacks don't exist. It's about refusing to let them define who you are. You are not your mistakes. You are not your failures. You are not your past. You are a being with infinite potential to adapt, evolve, and rise. The only question is, will you align your identity with the setback or with the comeback? The choice is always yours. The people who achieve extraordinary turnarounds in life always carry a powerful sense of identity. They see themselves as victors, not victims. They see themselves as creators, not prisoners of circumstance. And because they believe this so deeply, they act accordingly. They show up with a posture of strength, they speak with conviction, and they take consistent action. Eventually, the outer world bends to match their inner identity. Your life will always rise or fall to the level of how you see yourself. If you rewrite your identity, you rewrite your destiny. So declare today, "I am not my setback. I am my comeback. I am not defined by where I fell, but by how I rise." Hold that identity firmly, and every thought, emotion, and action will begin to align with it. Soon, the world will reflect back the truth you decided to embrace about yourself, that you are unstoppable, resilient, and destined to rise higher than ever before. Every event in life has two sides, just like a coin. Where there is difficulty, there is also opportunity. Where there is darkness, there is also light. Where there is loss, there is also potential gain. This is not just philosophy, it's a principle of life. The law of polarity states that everything has an opposite, and you cannot have one without the other. That means that inside every setback lies the seed of a comeback. If you train your mind to look for it, you will always find that the very thing that appears to be your greatest obstacle is also pointing you toward your greatest growth. Most people get trapped on one side of the polarity. When they fall, all they see is the pain, the loss, the frustration. is they focus so heavily on the negative that they blind themselves to the hidden positive. But the positive is always there. The comeback is always present inside the setback, it's just concealed. The people who rise after defeat are not those who experience fewer setbacks, but those who discipline their minds to look for the opposite. They ask, what's the advantage here? What's the lesson? What's the hidden gift? That question shifts perspective and reveals opportunities that were invisible before. Think about it when a business fails. The opposite of failure is not just despair, it's insight. That failure often teaches lessons that no success ever could. When a relationship ends, the opposite of heartbreak is not just loneliness, it's clarity about what you truly need and deserve. When health breaks down, the opposite of struggle is not just pain, it's the awareness and urgency to finally take control and rebuild stronger. In every negative lies an equal positive, waiting for you to uncover it. Your brain is wired to focus on threats. It's a survival mechanism. But survival mode is not success mode. To leverage the law of polarity, you must consciously redirect your mind to see both sides. That doesn't mean denying the pain of setbacks. It means expanding your awareness to also see the hidden possibility. Just as night and day coexist, so do setback and comeback. They are inseparable. If one exists, the other must exist too. The comeback often feels invisible because it requires patience to unfold. When you're in the middle of a storm, it's hard to believe that sunshine exists on the other side. But just as surely as the storm passes, so too will your circumstances shift. Your task is to hold faith in the polarity, that every low has a high, every down has an up, and every ending carries the seed of a new beginning. This awareness gives you resilience because you know no setback is permanent. It is always carrying within it the possibility of transformation. Those who master this principle live differently. They don't panic when things fall apart, because they trust that opportunity is being born in the midst of chaos. They don't collapse when life gets difficult, because they understand that the harder the fall, the greater the rise. They embrace the law of polarity and use it to their advantage, turning every apparent disadvantage into an eventual victory. So when you face your next setback, remember this truth. The comeback already exists inside it. Your role is to uncover it. Ask better questions. Train your eyes to see beyond the pain into the possibility. Hold the certainty that every fall carries with it the potential for a higher rise. When you live with that awareness, setbacks lose their power over you. They no longer feel like dead ends, they feel like doorways. And when you walk through those doorways with faith and determination, you'll discover that every setback was secretly preparing you for a comeback far greater than anything you imagined.